I know there's been rumblings of there needs to be a mid-gen refresh, and I think that is short-sighted in my opinion. Developers haven't had an opportunity to take full advantage of the feature set. We haven't been confirmed as to one game that's using velocity architecture, for example, but I think it's just really it's sad to see that these developers might not have the capacity or the time to optimize a game because they have these deadlines. The publishers are like, push out this game, and they have to kind of look at what can they do at the time to be able to have this game ready for launch. And that's why we're seeing, I think, disparity between like PlayStation versions versus Xbox versions. Again, the PlayStation version is just they're only optimizing for one system, whereas you have to split your optimization teams on the Xbox side and optimize for the Series X and the Series X. The parity clause, though, from my understanding, that's just game features rather than some of the actual feature sets of what the hardware can specifically do, which is why you see some games on the Series X launch with ray tracing and the S doesn't launch with ray tracing. But I expect like the first party developers to definitely take advantage of that, and I'm really hoping that FSR 3.0 that AMD has just talked about is going to be integrated into Starfield at some point to hopefully be able to push out a 60 FPS patch, because I think as great as Todd Howard wants the game to be in itself, 30 FPS for me is just not ideal for my gaming experience. I talked about why I haven't touched Redfall at all. I'm going to play Starfield because I've been playing some 30 FPS games to try and get back to being used to it, but it's a really jarring experience and it makes me feel very motion sick when I start playing at 30 FPS because I play most games at 60 or 120 FPS. And we know that some of these engines aren't necessarily able to take advantage. They don't have the feature sets to be able to utilize all that RDNA 2.0 has to offer. Yes, it's nice that they have that set system where they can go, these are the specs and we can optimize based on that. But then with the games launching on PC, they have to take into account the scalability of the engine, the scalability of the specs and the feature set that they're wanting to put into that game. And so compromises will be made, and then they've got to look at what do we want to deliver out for all these, the product that they want to deliver for all these consoles, and they really have to kind of finalize those and really focus on hitting what they need to hit. And as a result, we're just seeing the Xbox Series S and even the Xbox Series X not pushing out what they should be able to push out. Definitely at this point in the generation. I can't wait to see what Gears 6 does. You just know what they're going to be doing with Unreal Engine 5. The Coalition is so good at using Unreal Engine, and we saw what they helped with the Matrix demo. I don't think the Matrix demo would have performed as well as it did on the PlayStation 5 without the Coalition coming in there. The feedback they've been providing Epic around processes and even some of the ways that they do their LOD management or even some of the materials that they have for applying them has all been down to feedback from this development studio testing it. Even like Hellblade, what they've done in that space with facial animation and what we saw at, what was it, Tokyo Game Show? Was it Tokyo Game Show? I'm trying to think which one where we saw that live demo.
That was in E3 the last time they showed like a
No,
video
no, it wasn't E3. It was
I'm trying
or
to remember
the
what it was.
it
It
was
wasn't
that
E3.
for developers.
yeah, it was the
GDC?
Unreal GDC. Yeah,
GDC,
yeah,
yeah,
GDC. Yeah.
GDC, there we go.
yeah.
Yeah, we aren't seeing what these consoles are fully capable of, and I think part of that is resources with the developers. Part of that is because, like I said, the engines aren't necessarily built to take advantage of them fully. But we're seeing more and more feature sets being added to these and built onto the engines. So I think maybe in about a year or 2 years' time, we're probably going to start seeing games realizing the potential of the hardware. We're not quite there, and I know that whole where's the tools, where's the tools. The PlayStation 5, I still feel like isn't even being fully utilized either. And I even think that whole smart shift between drawing power away from the CPU and putting it in the GPU and vice versa isn't necessarily the right idea. That makes me worried about, like, I look at Final Fantasy 16 and how what happens when you go into combat and it locks. I'm trying to think of the word for it. It locks whatever the frame rate is and reduces the resolution, and I feel like that's part and part around Smart Shift and what they've done in that space. I still really don't like the idea of Smart Shift from
Yeah.
AMD. I see so many things that could potentially go wrong. But yeah, there's lots to talk about, and you could talk about it till the end of time around what these systems are capable of. But I really don't think mid-gen refreshes are required at this point, because I haven't seen my money's worth on what these systems are even capable of. You know, the Series S, more powerful than the One S, more should be able to deliver a lot more than it is. Even Larian Studios talking about split screen. Yes, Microsoft came in and put devs in to help, but knowing that they had to spend more time optimizing that particular version to enable split screen, they didn't give themselves enough time, and that's why it wasn't going to be available. And because of that parity clause around a specific gameplay mechanic, well, not gameplay mode, sorry, that's what was holding it back. And I'm glad that they've said, hey, in this instance, the feature's still on its way, or the mode's still on its way. It's not going to be available at launch, but you'll be able to eventually play it on the Series S once they work out whatever in the background needs to be worked out to get that working on that particular system. The system's capable of doing it, no doubt about it. They just have to spend more time and effort and more resources, and their focus is launching that game that's already launched on PC. They've now got a focus of launching it on PlayStation, any hot fixes that they need to do, and then their focus is Xbox end of the year. So they've got to prioritize, and we as gamers forget about that when it comes to how these games get developed. And so do publishers as well. They really look at the money side of it, and they forget that consumers, we're like elephants, we don't forget. And when a game launches and it's crap, in a horrible state, we want our money back. We didn't pay for that. That was not what was advertised to us when we bought it. So yeah, I could talk forever and ever about it, but I want to give other people's opinions. Yeah, my thoughts are the tools. Yes, they're not where they need to be. The engines that the games are not where they need to be, and the developers need more time to be able to take advantage of them.
Yeah, I just want to add to that. Personally, I think with the whole smart shift and the PS5, I feel like that feature would be great, like for a handheld, where like
Yeah,
you kind of want to manage your basically manage how much the system consume. But for like
and heat, yeah.
a hardware that's always going to be connected, you're kind of locking the developer to take advantage of one or the other. Like, like you
That's
can't
why.
go, a lot of people don't understand, you can't fully utilize the CPU and the GPU at the same time because it either boosts one or the other.
That's why it makes sense on a laptop. Why smart shifters on laptops?
Yes.
Because it's battery based versus PlayStation always being plugged into a power source. Yeah.
Yeah, that to me it didn't make any sense, but